Extra Yarn by Mac Barnett, illustrated by John Klassen. On a cold afternoon, in a cold little town where everywhere you looked was either the white of snow or the black from the chimneys, Annabelle found a little box filled with yarn of every color. So she went home and knit herself a sweater. And when Annabelle was done, she had some extra yarn. So she knit a sweater for Mars, too. But there was still extra yarn. And when Annabelle and Mars went for a walk, Nate pointed and laughed and said, "You two look ridiculous." "You're jealous," said Annabelle. "No, I'm not," said Nate. But it turned out he was. And even after she made a sweater for Nate and his dog, and for herself and for Mars, she still had extra yarn. At school, Annabelle's classmates could not stop talking about her sweater. "Quiet!" shouted Mr. Norman. "Quiet, everyone! Annabelle, that sweater of yours is a terrible distraction. I cannot teach with everyone turning around to look at you." "Well, I'll knit one for everyone," Annabelle said. "And so they won't have to turn around." "Impossible," said Mr. Norman. "You can't." But it turned out she could, and she did, even for Mr. Norman. And when she was done, Annabelle still had extra yarn. She knit sweaters for her mom and dad, and Mr. Pendleton, and Mrs. Pendleton, and for Dr. Palmer, and for little Louie. She made sweaters for everyone except Mr. Crabtree, who never wore sweaters or even long pants and who would stand in his shorts in the snow up to his knees. "No sweater for me, thanks," said Mr. Crabtree. So she made Mr. Crabtree a hat. And even then, Annabelle still had extra yarn. She made sweaters for all the dogs and all the cats and all the other animals too. And soon people thought, soon Annabelle will run out of yarn. But it turned out she didn't. And so Annabelle made sweaters for things she didn't even think wore sweaters. Things began to change in that little town. News spread of this remarkable girl who never ran out of yarn, and people came from around the world to see the sweaters and to shake Annabelle's hand. One day, an archduke, who was very fond of clothes, sailed across the sea and demanded to see Annabelle. "Little girl," said the Archduke, "I would like to buy this miraculous box of yarn, and I am willing to offer you $1 million. "No, thank you," said Annabelle, who was knitting a sweater for a pickup truck. The Archduke's mustache twitched. $2 million, he said.
$2 million.
Annabelle shook her head. "No, thanks." $10 million, shouted the Archduke. "Take it or leave it." "Leave it," said Annabelle. "I won't sell the yarn." And she didn't. So that night the Archduke headed off and hired 3 robbers to break into Annabelle's house. And they stole the box, and they took it to the Archduke, who set off across the snow and sailed over the sea back to his castle. The Archduke put put on his favorite song, and he sat in his best chair, and then he took out the box, and he lifted its lid, and he looked inside. His mustache quivered and shivered and trembled. The Archduke hurled the box out of the window and shouted, "Little girl, I curse you with my family's curse. You will never be happy again." But it turned out she was. The end. That was Extra Yarn by Mac Barnett and John Klassen. The Princess and the Pea, retold by Rachel Isadora.
We did this play in high school. We did this play in high school.
There's a musical, right?
Yes,
We did that too.
wait, she's black in this story? Oh, yes! Got a black princess! Come on with it.
The Princess and the Pea by Rachel Isadora. Once upon a time, there was a prince. The prince wanted to marry a real princess, so he traveled all over the world in hopes of finding such a lady. He met many princesses, but it was difficult to tell whether they were real. Iskawaran. Salam. Jumbo. Habari. There was something about each princess that was not quite right. So the prince came home again and was sad. One evening, there was a terrible storm. Suddenly, a knocking was heard on the gate, and the old king went to open it. There was a princess standing at the gate. But good gracious! What a sight the rain and wind had made her look. And yet, she said she was a real princess. She said she was a real princess. Ah, we shall soon find out if she is real, said the queen. And so she went into the bedroom where she laid a pea on the bedstead. And then she took 20 mattresses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And laid them on the pea. And then put 20 feather beds on top of the mattresses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. On this, the princess had to lie all night. The next morning, the princess was asked how she slept. Oh, very badly, said the princess. I scarcely closed my eyes all night. Heaven only knows what was in my bed, but I was lying on something hard, so that I am black and blue all over. That's horrible, said the king. Now they knew she was a real princess because she had felt the pea right through those 20 mattresses and the 20 feather beds. Nobody but a real princess could be as sensitive as that. And so the prince took the princess for his wife. The pea was put in a museum where it may still be seen, if no one's stolen it. Well, there you go. That is a true story. How to say hello. Salam in Ethiopia, Iska Waran in Somalia, Jambo Habari in Kenya. On a magical do-nothing day. By Beatrice, Alemagna. Here we go again, me and Mom in the same cabin, the same forest, the same rain. Dad's back in the city. Mom sat at her desk, quietly writing, while I destroy Martians. Actually, I was just pressing some buttons over and over. I wish Dad was here. What about a break from your game? Mom growled. Is this going to be another day of doing nothing? She was right. There was nothing I wanted to do. Except destroy Martians. She took the game out of my hands and hid it, as usual. I found it, as usual, and went outside, where it felt like everything in our garden was hiding from the rain. I held the game tightly. Maybe it would protect me from this boring, wet place. I walked down the hill. At the bottom of our path, I found some flat rocks in a pond. The rocks were round, like the heads of Martians. And I wanted to jump on them and crush them. Oh no! What have I done? My game fell in the pond. This could not be happening to me. I stuck my hand into the water to grab it. It was freezing. Without my game, I had nothing to do. The rain felt like rocks were hitting me. I was a small tree, trapped outside in a hurricane. Just then, there were 4 lights, and 4 huge snails appeared. Is there anything to do around here? I asked them. Yes, indeed, they told me. And I reached out and I touched their antennae, which were as soft as jello. It made me smile. And so I followed them down the path and found dozens of mushrooms. The air was so damp. I knew that smell. I knew that smell from when I was small. My grandparents' basement. My cave of treasures. I felt a sense that there was something special close. I was surrounded. I bent down and dug my fingers into the mud, where 1,000 seeds and pellets and kernels and grains and roots and berries touched my fingers and hands Ooh, there was an underground world full of treasures that I could not see. I looked up at the sky. Sunbeams fell down through a giant strainer and blinded me. I thought I heard the beat of drums from far away. But I found it was my heart. I felt filled up with energy and I began running. I began running fast, so fast that I fell down the hill. And at the bottom, everything was turned upside down. The whole world seemed brand new, as if it had just been created right in that moment in front of me. I climbed a tree and looked out as far as my eyes could see. I breathed in air until my lungs were bursting. I drank the raindrops like an animal would. I noticed bugs that I had never seen before. I talked to a bird. I made my biggest splash. And then I collected smooth stones clear as glass that I could watch the world shining through. Why had I not done these things before? Soaked to my bones, I ran inside the house and took off my coat and looked in the mirror. Oh, I thought I saw my dad smiling at me. My mother was there, still writing. But now she looked different. She looked like one of the creatures from outside. "Oh, you're soaked, I'll dry you." And she took a towel and brought me to the kitchen. I felt like giving her a big hug, and I wanted to tell her what I had seen and felt and tasted outside in the world. But I didn't. We just sat in the kitchen and looked at each other and breathed in the delicious smell of our hot chocolate. That's it. That's all we did. On this magical, do-nothing day. On a Magical Do-Nothing Day by Beatrice, Alemagna.